We are seeing downright apocalyptic images out of the western United States. Multiple wildfires across 6 states are burning quickly, and they're being fueled by the relentless heat. The so-called bootleg fire in Oregon is the latest of them all, with almost 150,000 acres burning out of control. Look at that. Now, the recent record high temperatures left hundreds dead in the Pacific Northwest, and an entire town burned to the ground in British Columbia. Now, this was due to the impact of climate change, according to an analysis of an international team of climate scientists. They wrote in part that the extreme heat would be virtually impossible without human-caused climate change. Joining us now is the governor of Washington State, Jay Inslee. Governor, it's good to see you. Thanks for your time this afternoon. And we wanted to talk with you because you have been warning about the threat posed by climate change for years, decades, in fact. You wrote a book about it way back in 2007. How is it being felt? How is it showing up right now in Washington State? What are Washingtonians dealing with?
Well, I think the reality is we should not hide from it. We should face it. And the reality is we have a permanent emergency in my state, most of the Western United States, indeed the whole nation. And because of climate change, this is an absolute reality that we are now experiencing. And when you ask, how are we feeling it? The thing that was most impressive to me in the last 2 weeks is we are feeling it in virtually everything in our lives. Today, we're getting ready to teach our children how to stay inside because of the smoke from the forest fires. We lost billions of shellfish. Our oyster industry lost a good part of its crop. They're now rotting on our beaches. Our glaciers are melting. Our highways right now have buckled because of the heat. And today, one of our major east-west corridors is closed because of a forest fire over the North Cascades. So the point about climate change is, you can run, but you cannot hide. It will find you in one aspect of your life. This demands a aggressive, robust action to build a clean energy economy. We're doing that. I just opened did the groundbreaking for a new electric bus manufacturing plant Friday in Ferndale, Washington. We got a reconciliation package because of the leadership of Joe Biden. So it's time to act right now.
Well, let me ask you this, because the spike in temperatures creates a really tough environment for farm workers, outdoor laborers, of which there are many in your state. There are lots of people without easy access to air conditioning in Washington State because for decades, generations, they haven't really needed it. Is there a climate-friendly short-term solution to that? I mean, if you give people more air conditions, that's not good for the environment, and it draws on the electric grid.
Well, look, we know we are going to have to do things to save ourselves in the short term to adapt to this changing climate. That includes additional cooling stations. We opened up a whole bunch of cooling stations for our people, including our homeless folks. We are going to be starting building more air conditioning units when you do a building in Washington State because of this changing heat structure. We're going to have to change our public water infrastructure to deal with sea level rise. We're going to have to do all these things, but you can't replace the fundamental infrastructure of our biological system. We have to eat. We got to have crops. Our crops are threatened right now. Our vineyards, our wheat fields. We lost a bunch of our berry crop. We think humans need to eat, and you can't just add air conditioners to solve this problem. And so we have to attack this at its source, which is carbon pollution, which is driving this climate change. And the good news is we know we can do this because we're building new industries every day. We're putting people to work every day in electric cars and electric buses and in wind turbine and energy efficiency and rebuilding our homes. This is the kind of work that's going to build our economy at the same time it saves us. But we've got to attack the culprit. It's sort of like those who think, oh, let's just adapt to this. It's like trying to win World War II by just building more bomb shelters. We need to move forward. We got to protect our farm workers and our people work outside. We had one loss in Oregon. We know of an agricultural worker who are feeding us. That work's always incredibly hard. And we've adopted new rules, both Washington and Oregon, recently to protect our agricultural workers. But that's not enough. We've got to stop the fundamental horrific heating that is making it dangerous to work outside.
Well, let's talk a bit more about solutions, because you recently passed, as I understand it, a cap and invest program, which gives companies incentives to cut their carbon emissions. How does that work, and how might that be a model nationally?
Well, we are proud of what we've done. We passed 2 bills this last session that will put a limitation economy-wide on the amount of carbon pollution that goes into the atmosphere. And essentially, there will be some charge for companies to make sure that you comply with your obligation. It's also a good bill because it has a lot of environmental justice built into it. Look, we know who are the first and worst hit by this. It's people in poverty. It's people who have to work outside. And so we embedded environmental justice to bring more equity to this effort while we're fighting climate change. We also adopted a clean fuel standard, which will give consumers cleaner fuels with less carbon pollution over time. We know this works. It's worked in California and other places in the world. So we now, I think it's safe to say, have the most robust, the most comprehensive, and importantly, the fairest approach to tackling the climate crisis. But it's got to be all hands on deck if we're going to solve this problem. Fortunately, we have the tools to do it. We know how to do it. And we know that it grows our economy while we do it. You know, you mentioned this book I wrote. The book was basically about how to build a clean energy economy. And the things that I suggested we could do, we're now doing. We're putting people to work making electric cars and wind turbines. We're building more energy efficient buildings. All of those things that I thought was going to happen in 2007 are coming to pass. That's a good news story here. But we have to actually use these tools. But we have to have the laws to require that.
Yeah, I read that book way back in the day, and I have to say you were prescient.
Well, I knew somebody did. Yeah. I was sure somebody did.
Governor Jay Inslee, thanks for your time. You've been leading the charge against climate change for quite some time. It's great to speak with you.